She was singing in Bayreuth when the Metropolitan's European agent persuaded her to come to St. Moritz for an audition before the Metropolitan's general manager, Giulio Gatica-Zazza, and his chief conductor, Artur Podansky. The hotel room was small and heavily carpeted, deadly for sound. Madame Flagstad was given a contract, but no one, least of all she, suspected what was to follow.
I think in many ways, Flagstad is the most important single figure in Met history. It's very easy to imagine Met history without the spectacular singers of the first season in the 1880s. What Flagstad did was, in effect, save opera in America at a time when the entire country was financially depressed, and opera was not terribly interesting to many people. And what happens when you get a strong box office figure like Flagstad, suddenly not only their performances are interesting, but everything is more interesting. So that Flagstad in effect saved the Met. Flagstad came and was the center of everything.
I'm Christine Goerke, and I'm here in New Jersey, and I wanted to just take a moment to wish the one, the only Flagstad a happy 125th birthday. I have to say that there is not a voice that I can think of that imbues the beauty and grace and elegance that hers does. When I think of the dramatic repertoire, it's the voice that touches my heart. So, a very happy birthday. You are missed, you are remembered. We are grateful.
It was the third year of the New Deal, but we were still staggering to our feet from the worst depression in history. The very existence of the Metropolitan had been threatened. In the words of Mrs. August Belmont, who refused to let the Met's doors be closed by depression, Flagstad's coming in the midst of all this was like a golden ray of light. This tall, clear-eyed goddess shook us out of our doldrums and put Wagner back on the gold standard.
I was asked to bring some music to you today, and I will tell you, to be honest, it's actually been a gift of an ask for me since things started getting serious in our lives, and we've been alone in our homes with our families. It's been a bit difficult for me to find a lot of joy in singing, and this is actually the first day that I have done so in 3 weeks. And it's been really hard for me to want to make music, but today I had to because I was asked to, and I'm so relieved because in fact it brought me a lot of peace and a lot of solace, and so I hope that it does the same for you today. I was asked to choose some music that I thought would be relevant to lift people up and maybe make people laugh and bring some joy to you, so I chose two pieces that I really love. The first piece that I chose is by a composer that is woven into the fabric of my being at this point, Richard Strauss, and the piece that I chose is Opus 10, number 1, and it's Zueignung. And to me, the piece speaks to longing and understanding that being away from somebody makes you love them more. And I know that a lot of us are in that situation right now. second piece I chose is a piece by Verdi, and it's called Stornello. This one, it always makes me laugh. If you've ever known someone, or been someone, who has been broken up with but isn't having it, because you didn't break up with me, I'm breaking up with you. That's what this piece reminds me of. So it's a bit sassy, it's a bit funny, and so the juxtaposition of the two, I hope bring you some joy today.
Dici non mi vuoi bene, non te ne voglio. Dici che l'altro pesce ti sogliamo, anche un altro giardino rosa voglio. Anche quest'uovo che ci accordiamo, tu fammi il che ti pare, io quel che voglio. Son libero di me padrone ognuno, serve tutti e non servo a nessuno. Costanza nel lavoro è una follia, vola via io sono e me ne mando, non devo più scontrarti per lì, e quando si lontani sto in campo, come io simbolo che uscì di prigionia, tutta notte lì, con leggicando. Sono libero di me padrone ognuno, serve tutti e non servo a nessuno.
Flagstad was not only unknown in America when she arrived in 1935, she was almost unknown throughout most of the musical world, aside from the Bayreuth season she had just done and her work in Scandinavia. In 1934, the leading Wagnerian soprano at the Metropolitan was Frida Leider, who hated the Metropolitan and singing in New York. And although she was contracted for the 34-35 season, she produced doctor's certificates and a number of arguments about why she did not want to return. So the Met was left with a gap in its Wagnerian performances. And a very last-minute audition was arranged in St. Moritz, where Flagstad went from Bayreuth to be heard by Gary Casazza and Artur Bodansky, the conductor. And they engaged her, and the correspondence back to the Met said, "We've heard Flagstad, and we think she'll be all right." And afterwards, everyone explained that they had heard her in her heavily draped room. When Bodansky was conducting his first orchestral rehearsal with her, the story, which is pretty reliable, I think, is that he dropped his baton, the orchestra continued playing, and he rushed to the general manager's office, Gary Casazza, and said, "You have to come hear this." So it was only a surprise up until a few days before the debut. The debut on a Saturday afternoon, which a large part of America heard, was one of the great moments in Met history.
Hi, I'm Anthony Roth Costanzo, and I'm here in New York City, where Kirsten Flagstad spent so many years of her career singing at the Metropolitan Opera. So it is a great honor and a great joy for me to be able to share this song in celebration of her 125th birthday. Now, I'm a countertenor, So I wanted to sing Wagner, but I'm not sure that I'm there yet. So the next best thing might be Liszt. Of course, Liszt was an incredible mentor and influence for Wagner, and his daughter married Wagner. So I thought, what could be more appropriate? This is a beautiful text by Goethe, which was scrawled on the wall of the cottage where they found him dead. I am so happy to collaborate with my musical inspiration, pianist Bryan Wagorn, and this is Über allen Gipfeln ist Ruhe.
I will never forget the really golden sound. It's a sound like the sun coming up in the middle of the day, singing all those, pouring out those marvelous phrases, not only in fortissimo phrases, but even in the piano. Her pianissimo was one of the most beautiful sounds you have ever heard. Of course, I met her very often as a friend in my house. And she came round, she liked strawberries with cream, which I used to make for her. And of course she sang in our back garden in London because the little theatre, or the Mermaid Theatre, where she used to do Dido and Aeneas for Bernard Miles, was in the back of the house we used to live in.
I mean, if you could imagine, sort of close your eyes and imagine sort of black velvet, first of all, beautiful black silk velvet. And then on the velvet, there's molten gold, sort of liquid gold sort of running through it. That you have this warm, wonderful, lush sound that has highlights in it. But it's not a metallic sound. The gold is melted, so it's a warm sound in the gold as well. But for me, it is on the recordings, a voice that is so rich and so full and so beautiful and so sure, with light on the top of it.
The major roles which she sang, Isolde and Brunhilde, Tristan and Valkyrie and Götterdämmerung. These major roles having exactly the tessitura, which require low notes, top notes, middle voices, against huge masses of an orchestra. And she had this incredible quality, always above the orchestra, riding any waves. But didn't need to rebalance orchestra very much against her voice. It was another orchestra. You had two orchestras, really. She had a voice like an orchestra. Big voice, was an enormously big voice, but not only big. She could sing very gentle, soft, gentle phrases also. She was a splendid, dramatic soprano. Probably the greatest in this century.
The voice was ideal for Wagner, there's no question about it. It had this amplitude. And the only way I can describe it accurately is that with many singers, you can fidget in your seat because you're wondering if they're going to make it to the next note, you know. With Flagstad, never. She was a musician who sang. She was first and foremost a musician. And it was God's gift that she had this fantastic instrument that could give expression to what she was trying to portray.
If you haven't heard that voice in a theater, you have no idea from recordings, really, what the impact was. Because, for instance, Birgit Nilsson, who is compared to Flagstad, has what I think we all consider an enormous voice, but it's a voice that goes straight to you. Flagstad was like being in an enormous embrace, or in the center of a bell that was ringing. I mean, it just embraced the auditorium and resounded.